hanging round downtown by myself, and I had so much time to sit and think about myself, and then there she was, like double cherry pie. Yeah, there she was, like disco superfly. I smell sex and candy, yeah. Who's that lounging in my chair? Who's that casting devious stares in my direction? Mama, this surely is a dream. Yeah. Yeah, mama, this surely is a dream. Diggin'.
Democrats are set to take control of the U.S. Senate, House, and the White House.
This will go down as one of the most progressive administrations in American history.
God willing, everything is on the table.
You now can pass things without a filibuster threat.
Oh, you'll regret this, and you may regret it a lot sooner than you think.
You and I have a rendezvous with destiny. We'll preserve for our children this, the last best hope of man on earth, or we'll sentence them to take the last step into 1,000 years of darkness.
Oh, welcome to the Ruthless Variety Program, a very high-energy Thursday episode. We've got a ride-along partner for the first time ever.
It's fantastic.
Charlie Hurt, an old friend, Charlie Hurt.
I tell you, that intro music was something else. I mean, who did you guys hire to sing that?
Well, listen, it's an all-candy episode. We felt like we needed to provide some good sort of all-candy, high-energy intro music for you, Charlie.
I love how you really do hit those high notes really nicely. It's impressive. Is there something else you need to tell us about?
No. It's
you taking medicine for that?
Well, it's talent.
Pure talent
primarily.
You can just reach the high ranges.
We can do everything here.
It's talent and it's harmony. It's harmony. Mm-hmm. And we're so glad to have you in studio today because I think, we really work best now that we've got this great studio. And we can sit here, we recorded this podcast on Zoom for 6 months, which was obviously very difficult. But, we have an improvisational tone to this variety program.
That's exactly right.
So having a guest here in person, I think it's going to even make it better.
So our listeners will probably know Charlie best from his work at Fox News, but you do a lot of other things, don't you?
Yeah, a lot of it I can't like talk about in public.
Oh, that's fair.
I mean, it's.
Well, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. You're like a criminal or something. It's unbelievable.
Well, when you run a farming operation, I couldn't find a place to park when I got here because I have a dead animal in the back of my truck. And I thought it would be a little bit aggressive to pull into a parking garage, and then I don't know. I mean, I take parking tickets as that's what you pay to park around here because it's not worth going in.
Yeah, it's the cost of doing business.
Yeah. It's just I mean, you're going to pay $75 to park your car anyway.
Right.
So a $75 parking ticket is But I've got I was walking out and I had a dead guinea. We have a very large fowl operation.
Is that a pig?
No, a guinea pig. No, a guinea's a bird. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, they're great. And anyway, but when one dies, you can't just leave it there because then, especially if you don't know what it died from. Otherwise, you could feed it to the pigs. Okay. But if you don't know what it died from, you don't know. So I threw it in the back of the truck, and I was going to go to the dump, and I never made it to the dump. And so I drive up here, and I'm like, I was getting out of the truck yesterday. I was like, good God, what is that smell? And I walk back, and there's a freaking guinea with all these flies flying. And so then I couldn't park the truck.
So you've brought it to DC.
I did, but now I was telling I wanted to take the thing out. I just sort of toss it in the bushes or in a trash can or something like that. But then there are cameras everywhere. And so can you imagine if somebody's Ring doorbell catches dumbass here with a dead animal? Throwing it in a trash can or something?
Hey, there's Fox News personality Charlie Hurt with dead animals.
With a dead animal in the back of his truck. He probably abused it. And I didn't, by the way. I fed this thing. I hatched this thing. It died, not because of me. I'm just giving it a proper burial, and I missed the garbage.
Well, you're an environmentalist to your core, Charlie.
Well, I really am.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. But listen, preemptive apologies to Senator Shelley Moore Capito, who's also on the program today. I feel like she's a great interview for starters, and she gives us an update on all of the infrastructure and stuff, but you're going to have to wade through some fun here to get to all of that. So where do you want to start?
She's a serious person, and that's the problem.
That's the problem, right? When you have serious people, which we tend to do, preemptive apologies to their communication staff, I guess. Smug, should we talk about, where should we start? Should we start with the Australian Olympic equestrian?
Yes, we should absolutely start there. Okay. So essentially what happened is
dressage, I think we call it.
Yeah. There was a Australian Olympic equestrian rider was suspended after testing positive for cocaine. And to be clear, that's the rider, not the horse.
Okay. All right. So, there's been a lot of suspensions for drug stuff. We've seen American athletes. Cocaine is not. I think that's like pretty unique. We haven't seen that a lot popped up.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I wouldn't see the problem if they gave it to the horse. Like, I guess it could be considered like performance enhancing for the rider. Like, like in a horse race, you want your driver to be, or your rider to be as small and light as possible. So I guess cocaine,
Hey, did anybody see Scarface? if there's ever been a performance enhancing drug, it's cocaine, right? Nothing.
I don't know if you want Scarface. You want Tony Montana riding your horses?
I would like him representing the United States at the Olympics in Tokyo. I think it would be just fantastic.
Very pro-Cuba take. But I mean, it raises a decent question. They're testing this job. Does it ultimately impact the performance of the jockey?
But also, you said that the horse was not on cocaine, but the horse. Remember at the Kentucky Derby, the horse got.
Oh yeah, we've covered this extensively. Yeah, junkie horse.
Yeah, the junkie horse.
The junkie horse
that got. And Donald Trump was the only politician who dialed in on that, like on day one.
Yeah.
And all these people, I get so tired of listening to people say about Donald Trump, I really don't want to hear his opinion about. We don't need to hear his opinion about everything. When something like that happens, the first thing I say to myself is, I wonder what Donald Trump thinks about it. And you know what? Within like 5 hours, he never disappoints.
The dude always had hot takes, like way before getting involved in politics.
Yeah.
Like you think about like all of his takes he had on pop culture and the entertainment industry, bad food restaurants. He gave like hilarious Miss America, hilarious reviews of
Diet
stuff.
Coke, everything.
The best thing about Donald Trump was he was like your buddy on the couch.
Yeah.
He just is like he's sitting next to you watching TV and he's like, you believe this shit?
Totally. But I mean, look, the Olympics is, I guess it's a pretty important thing. You got to make sure that people aren't on cocaine.
I don't think, no. Opposite take.
Okay.
If you survive COVID and the COVID protocols at this Olympics, I think everything else should be on the table. I don't think you should test for anything.
It's right. It's the first athlete I've seen that's tested anything other than COVID. Maybe cocaine's the cure for COVID.
But what about the chick that tested for? She was like pot.
Yeah, was it a tennis player, an Olympian, or something like that?
No,
she's the runner.
An amazing runner.
Amazing runner.
Yeah, she had just like broken world records for.
Oh, and she had a relative who passed away, and accordingly had some time by herself, and apparently had smoked some pot, and now she can't run in the Olympics. And she's a world record holder, I think.
Yeah, it's unofficial because it was during a heat. Is that a word?
Yeah.
That we talk about?
Trial, maybe.
Yeah, trial.
Yeah.
And but since it was, she literally smashed the world record by 0.4 of a second.
And I think we can all agree that pot is not a performance.
Right. Pot didn't help her.
Right. I mean, I do agree that. I mean, if you have rules and you gotta, you can't have rules and then not obey them. So it's kind of, but it's a little bit like complaining about an election after the election. If you've got complaints, you kind of got to register them either after you win or before the election. And so everybody complaining about her pot test, I'm sympathetic, but the rules are the rules.
Yeah, right. The rules are the rules. Yeah. Smug, can the horse compete alone?
See, now that's a good proposition. Along with kind of what Duncan was saying is this Olympics is already completely screwed up. It's already messed up. All right. There's going to be no one allowed to watch any of the events. Right. And you're getting, so many athletes who have tested positive for COVID. They're all getting removed. This is not a standard Olympics, and we shouldn't treat it as such. We should try to make this Olympics about enjoying the spectacle. So, like I previously suggested, every country should send one Olympian who has to compete in every sport.
Like an Ironman. Yeah.
Let the horse run alone.
That's a
Let's
good
see
take.
what the horse does.
Would you fight a horse on cocaine?
I mean, no. That changes the dynamic.
It does.
So I guess that could, in fighting, I guess it could be performance enhancing. But in a race, I mean, shit, whatever the junkie horse wants.
No, but you have to be on cocaine to fight a horse. To have any.
It depends.
Smug
Or
is
PCP.
Smug is well on record, Charlie, as iterating and reiterating that he will fight a horse and he will take one out.
So the question is, what's the largest animal you think you could beat one-on-one? No weapons.
Yeah, what's your answer to that?
Shark.
You think you could beat a
In
shark?
the water?
Sure. Yeah.
No.
No. I've spent so much time thinking about this. So, I mean, if you ever go spearfishing,
Yeah.
I've never done it. And every time I read a story about somebody getting eaten while spearfishing, it's like, well, that makes sense. You're shooting fish, you're getting blood all over you. You're in the water and there's sharks in the water with you. And so it makes sense. So somehow or another, I don't know how this happened. My son got me spearfishing in the Gulf of Mexico, like earlier this summer. And you're swimming around underwater with a spear gun and you're shooting fish and it's an explosion of blood and then it starts wriggling around. And I kid you not, I look down and there's a 10-foot shark, just swimming right next to me. I remain calm. I've thought a lot about this. I could take on a shark. There is absolutely there's no doubt in my mind. The scene in Jaws where the shark, that's where it gets dangerous. When the shark comes out of the water and is on the boat and you're kicking, that's not what you do. You take the spear gun, you hold it down, and you make it so that he can never get his maw around any of your appendages. That's how you do it.
And that's it. But then did you go for eyes?
Of course, and
Gouge.
the gills and the nose.
Yeah,
but the problem with their eyes is they have two eyelids. They have a
I love
clear
that
one.
you know that.
Yeah, they come right before they strike.
Right.
The eyelids pop over their eyes and they roll back.
Josh,
Of
you
course,
should
the
know
old
this.
man knows that.
Well, I know that from Jaws.
Yeah, well, also this. It's also Shark Week. So.
Black eyes, like a doll's eyes.
Doll's eyes.
Okay, so did you have to encounter the shark, or did it leave you alone?
No, actually, it was very peaceful. I couldn't leave. I was stuck. I couldn't leave because I had to stay there with the shark, and I was afraid to look away. And the problem was, I poked my head up. I have a snorkel, and I poke my head up. I see nobody's around me, and the boats are too far away. You can't. I'm not Jesus. You're not going to outrun the thing, and I'm sure as hell not going to outswim the thing. So I kind of hung out for a little while, and we just kind of. So I didn't shoot any more fish. I didn't
You still had the gun. You could shoot.
I had the gun. No. But then, because you shoot the thing, and then it's gone. The arrow is gone, and then you got to bring it all back in. And
you're
wrap it all.
connected to the shark at that point.
That's the problem.
Oh.
You shoot a shark, and then you're connected to it. That's not going to do you any good. And so no, actually, I never fired it. Firing it was going to be like the nuclear code. That was going to be the last thing. I just held the thing like this and used it, to keep something between me and it. And then finally, how have you ever been snorkeling? I'm not accustomed to it. But eventually, after literally 15 minutes with this thing, I'm not kidding you, it's 10 foot long. I start hearing this, and I'm like, finally I put my head up, and it's everybody, they're all in the boats. And they're like, come on, sharks!
Wow.
And I'm like, I know, I've been sitting here for 15 minutes with this shark, trying to negotiate with it. I'm not the guy. You go after one of the other guys. You know what they say? It's like, you don't have to outrun, you don't have to outrun the bear. You have to outrun your son.
Yeah.
You don't have to outrun the shark. You have to outswim your son. But my son had gotten out of the water and was in the boat.
So he outran you.
He had started the engines up and everything. And
They're ready to go.
The shark is getting angry, "Arr!" And I'm like, no, dude, we're cool, man. We're cool. We're totally cool. I'm not going to shoot anything else. We're just hanging out here together.
Well, Charlie Herb prepared to take on the shark. We're going to see in Iowa whether or not Smug has got what it takes with a horse.
I would like to see
the question was if the horse comes after me.
Well, it looks that you're wrong.
100%. A horse is going to catch it.
What's the technique? I mean, you have to have a technique.
No, he's got a very specific.
You just fake it out. The whole crux of it is how smart can a horse be if for thousands of years people put blinders on these things and they're like, all right, I'll do whatever you tell me to do. Not the sharpest
Unbelievable
knife in the drawer. So you just fake it out and you give it a kick to the head.
Or I thought the ribs were also
Yeah, both. Go for both.
Your take is they're incredibly fragile.
They are very fragile.
You think you could feint give them a shoulder?
I can tell you from experience. Ask anybody who's ever had to deal with owning a horse or they are so fragile. They are so fragile. You give it the wrong food to eat and its leg cramps up and like, oh my God, you have to fix this or the horse is
So now we've gotten to the whole point where I brought this topic up, right? Charlie owns horses, right?
No, it's even better.
And you've been hurt by them.
I've discovered the proper way to have horses is to have someone else own them.
Yes.
Because they're so damned expensive.
Yeah, people think a boat is a problem. Yeah, try owning a horse.
Yeah, but you just let somebody else who owns the horses keep their horses on your farm, and then when the vet comes and they hand you the bill, you just send the bill to somebody else.
That is smart.
It's fantastic.
So, but the origination for the idea of having you a full ride-along partner with Ruthless was we did an episode where Smug outlined how he was going to take out a horse. Right?
I'm very skeptical of it.
We were as well.
It's going to work.
Yeah, we were very skeptical.
The moment,
are you going to be in chaps when you do this?
No.
Oh no.
Helmet.
The moment that this episode airs, I see you on TV with the shiner like you'd been in the ring with Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
And I hear from mutual friends, a horse did it to you.
Yeah. No, it was ugly. And the real problem was how I wound up on TV in the first place. My wife was out of town. And so I was, doing my stuff over the weekend, whatever. And Monday morning, and I had to go on TV, and I had gotten into this altercation with the horse, and it was pretty ugly. But, I'm not a vain guy. I'm like, whatever. Nobody will notice.
Oh, Jesus.
And so I go show up, and I go to get on TV, and then suddenly everybody notices. Oh, and obviously... And
the whole half of your face was black.
Yeah, no. I realize now it was really obvious.
Oh, jeez.
But then, of course, the other problem was then I had to make up a story trying to explain to because my wife is always getting pissed at me for getting on the horses and riding and doing all sorts of idiotic stuff. And I had to come up with a lie about what happened to me. And all of my lies fell through, like I was vacuuming and the vacuum, came up and hit me between the... What actually happened was I'd been working all day. I was hot, sweaty. I'm a big opponent of wearing helmets. I think that they are how many of the guys that stormed the beaches of Normandy grew up wearing helmets, doing anything? You cannot have a country.
Such a base take.
No. I think they were wearing helmets when they stormed Normandy, though.
Well, yeah, they were also getting shot at.
Oh, yeah.
And most of them lost it. But you don't storm the beaches of Normandy with pussies.
Okay. Okay. Fair. That's fair. That's fair.
And therefore, you're not going to ride a horse with one.
No. And,
okay.
And I don't. And my kids have never worn them. I think it's the slippery slope to full turning us into a nation of whiners and anyway.
So hardcore.
So I get so I'm out there and it's hot and I get on. Well, obviously as you get older and you get fatter, it gets harder and harder to get up on. And this is not like a Shetland pony. This is like a big horse.
Right.
It would kick your ass. And I go up there, and I'm so old and fat. I can't even get my left foot into the stirrup. It's like it's like a yoga pose to get the thing in there, and then you have to swing your fat ass over the rump of the horse. And I was doing this. There are flies everywhere. The horse is pissed. It's like 95 degrees. He's like, I know we're not going for a ride right now. And I'm like, yeah, no. And at this point, I'm like, all right, you're pissing me off because he's like stamping around. And I'm like, no. I'm the human here. I'm going to own you. You're gonna do what I'm telling you to do. And I swing my thing around, my leg over. At the same moment, he bucks his head back, and the crown of his skull hits me right between the eyes, and it smashes my glasses. They cut into below my eye and above my eye, and go splintering everywhere. And I'm sitting up there. I get up on top of him, and I'm sitting there like, what the hell? It's like the little Tweety birds are going around. I'm like, whoa, what happened here? And so we're sitting there, and he's still pissed off, and he's like stamping around and everything. And then I look down, and I see what's left of my glasses, and I'm like, shit, he's going to step on my glasses. And so I'm like, hold on. So I get off, I jump down, and I pick up my glasses, and they're in like 3 pieces, and I put them in my pocket. And then I walk around to kind of the front of him because, and this goes to your point about how they're not really all that smart, but they have a very high emotional quotient. They're very intelligent emotionally. So I walk around the front of him, and he's still pissed off, and he's like, man, get off of me. And he takes one look at me. I can just feel that like the half of my cheek is like hanging down. I'm going to need to get stitches. Blood is like pouring down my entire, I'm wearing, it's like a bib of blood all down the front of my shirt. I walk around, he takes one look at me, and he's like, and he immediately calms down. And he realizes that something really bad has happened to me. And I'm sure he can smell the blood because they have amazing scent. I mean, those nostrils are massive. And so he was like, okay, we're cool. And so I get up on the horse, get back up on him, and we go for like a hour-long ride. Mainly because I really didn't want to stop and go and look in the mirror.
Wait, so with this open wound, you went and finished the ride?
I was by myself. I really didn't want to freaking deal with it.
I mean, you could have bled out.
Yeah, no, but it was starting to crust up a little bit. But the thing was, I really didn't want to deal with whatever. It was going to be cut like down to my jaw, to my cheekbone. And I was like, you know what? We're going to go for a ride.
What a mountain man.
Put this out. And then, of course, when I finally get home, by the time we, go for a ride and I get, and that's the other thing is you can't let, it's like anything in life. You can't let the horse think that he can just headbutt you and then have his way.
Well, now you're on the smug train.
So right after it saw you were bleeding, it just calmed down.
As soon as he saw it, and I think he probably knew that he had done it, he went complete chill. And it's funny actually. Ever since then, he's been like super gentle with me.
Yeah, see, horses are smart and decent, and you want to fight them, Smug.
Well, here's the thing is, right when it calms down, that's when you go for the round.
Yeah. No mercy. Smug has no mercy.
That's when you go for the roundhouse.
When his defenses are down.
You got to take a shot. That's the thing. You got to take a shot. And if you take the shot and you're still standing, you got the horse where you want him.
I would really like to see this. In fact, I would like to provide the venue for it.
Well, here's the thing is,
as long as we have like video angles.
Yeah.
From,
my experience with horses is limited to dressage horses, and those are among the daintiest.
They're sort of the divas.
Have you ever ridden dressage? I
do not. My girlfriend at the time rode dressage, and I was part of the whole. I mean, like you said, taking care of a horse is so much work and so expensive.
I feel like his entire vision of a horse is formulated in that experience.
Well, yeah. I mean, I base my opinion on my experience.
Yeah,
I think you need some more experience with like workhorses.
See, that's a different thing. Like I'm not like a damn Clydesdale. That's a whole different animal. That's like half dinosaur at that point.
Can I before at the risk of getting too deep here? Can I get one more? I need one more Charlie Hurt hot take on where we're at with like topics that come up frequently on the program in addition to fighting horses. Space. Bezos, did he go to space?
Totally faked. 100% faked. Did you see when he landed and they were staging it right before our eyes. So they're like looking through the window like, no, not yet. You can't come out yet. And they were setting up the stairs and they were like positioning people around it. And then they opened the door and then they all walked out like they had just, they didn't go anywhere.
That's
the whole thing was faked.
That's the best take. We're going to get so many angry comments. I can't wait.
Wait. I just want to make sure I understand. So Smog's take is that they didn't make it to space, right? They went high in the air, but they didn't make it to space. Your take is that they didn't go anywhere.
Totally faked. No. The thing, and you look at the capsule thing that they climbed out of. It's completely unaerodynamic. It's not going to go anywhere. And I'm not saying conclusively that the moon landing was faked. I'm just saying this was definitely fake.
Oh, wait, I didn't even ask about the moon landing. Do you have, is at least in your view, it's possible they were walking around Yuma in 1969?
It's out of my area of expertise. I'm skeptical. Color me skeptical. And I'm a lot more skeptical. Like every month that passes, over the past like 5 years of all the BS that has been passed off as accuracy and truth, whether it's from the media or the government or Democrats?
That'll do it.
Oh,
the past 5 years have really been an exercise in how far the media and the government can lie to people.
Totally.
Let's get into that.
But seriously, if let's just say that aliens landed and took over all the voting machines and converted 60 million votes from Trump to Biden. I'm not saying that did happen. I'm just saying if that did happen, it would be like one of the lesser dishonest things that has happened in the last 6 years, right?
Yeah, it wouldn't even be top 5.
No. It'd be like, yeah.
So, Charlie, when I met you, I was working in the Senate.
Do I remember that?
Yeah, well, barely, and there's a lot of reasons for that. but you were working in the Senate as an actual reporter, actual journalist, like a real one, not an opinion one, like a real one.
Yeah.
How the hell did you? I mean, have you seen this? Has this been happening all along? Because we've come to the conclusion on this show that like journalism's basically dead, right? And the objective facts that we all sort of understand and appreciate are no longer even factored into the narrative that is written and talked about on a day-to-day basis. From your perspective, has this been going on forever, or are we more in tune with it now?
When we were up on the Hill, and I was doing newspapers, it was there was sort of a known liberal bias. Like the New York Times had a well-known reporter today who covered conservatives for the New York Times.
Oh yeah,
and I would be like, oh really? So who covers liberals for you? It's like that, and it was just funny. It was like ridiculous, and so you knew that there was going to be sort of this jaundice about everything, but it was okay. You sort of accepted it. And then something happened. I think it really kind of happened with Obama. Mm-hmm. And when Obama got elected, all these people, they just became like stories no longer mattered. What mattered was promoting this historic figure that it was doing, and they just fell in love with him. And then that sort of that broke it one way, and then along came Trump, which of course one of the reasons that he came along and was so successful is because of Obama and because of the way the media treated
because of
Obama.
them.
Yeah.
Right.
And all the stuff about, Obama was born in Kenya or wherever, all that stuff, what that did was it proved that Trump was willing to call these people on their stuff. It didn't matter that people did or did not or didn't have an opinion about where Obama was born. What mattered was Trump was a guy who was going to call everybody on their stuff, and he didn't care. And he was willing to just get freaking lit up for it. And so they were like, okay, well, at least this guy's not with the program. We'll try this out for a while.
And I mean, I think that the Obama thing is a perfect example because most people, I would say, probably don't even realize the origin of birtherism was Hillary's campaign was trying to shop that to the media when she was in a primary with Obama that Obama eventually won.
Yeah.
Right. And also during that time, and you were talking about, basically in the beginning of the Obama administration, they became, activists rather than journalists. Do you guys remember Journo list? Yeah. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For our listeners, it was basically like a Google group or a listserv or something like that of very prominent journalists who were covering the Obama administration and Congress. And basically it was a messaging tool where they all basically coordinated their message for how to help Barack Obama.
It's truly remarkable. That
a lot of these people are still prominent journalists in America who are on this thing.
Heralded as balanced, straight reporters.
And a great example is like I think when that came out, Weigel, they were like, "This is too egregious." He lost his job at the Washington Post, and now he's back.
Yeah, but the Weigel story is even funnier in that he was what Charlie just said.
The conservative,
right. The guy that Washington Post assigned to cover conservatives.
Insane,
right?
Insane.
So they ran, but it's even better, guys. They ran him out of there, right? Because he was on journalist and obviously couldn't be a conservative, so he couldn't cover conservatives. And they brought in Jen Rubin. I mean, it's too good. It's really too good. Well, let's get into some news, guys, because, where do we start? How about this pipeline story? I think it fits well with the Charlie genre that he was just talking about sort of how journalism basically covered the Trump administration and how they viewed everything through the lens of Russia and a stolen election and everything else. Well, this pipeline that Putin has, right? This Nord Stream 2 thing that you've heard about that the United States has had huge problems with, obviously, totally not in our national security interests. Biden gets in, the tough on Russia guy, right? The guy who's going to set Putin straight, really look him eye to eye. He gets in and he immediately waves this thing through. No objections. We're good. We're good with it.
Well, he closes pipelines here in the U.S.
Right. He closed the Keystone Pipeline.
Well, and even better, lets the Russians close our pipelines.
Yeah, they hacked it like a week later.
Colonial pipeline.
America's back, baby.
Back better. But but gas prices are not Joe Biden's fault.
No, that's right.
The fact that you're paying $4.50 at the pump right now is not Joe Biden's fault.
No, it's definitely not that he handed.
So this is my question about. I mean, all this stuff. It's so absurd. It's so ridiculous. But my question is always the same thing, because I assume I'm always getting taken for a ride by somebody. I don't know who it is, and the problem is, if you don't know who it is, that's when it gets really ugly. That's when you really get like completely mugged. So. Who's laughing at? I mean, somebody has to be sitting around this whole Joe Biden, the whole Hunter Biden thing.
Oh yeah,
this smoking, cheese whiz and a crack pipe, and then selling artwork, and somebody's laughing at us.
Dude, that's got to be the KGB at this point, doesn't it? I mean, if you could set up Russian intelligence operations in a way that would have had the United States of America and all of the elite institutions entirely focused on your country, trying to take down the current president of the United States, only to have that end after 2 impeachments, and then you get another guy in who just waves your stuff through.
And I mean, I think that's so. The story that broke it completely highlights all of that. So this Nord Stream pipeline benefits Russia. They essentially are going to start having a monopoly on gas in Western Europe. But here's the kicker: is so Ukraine obviously has a problem with this. Russia making tons of money is not a good thing for Ukraine. But the Biden administration is asking Ukraine not to make waves. They're demanding they become silent and telling them that if they don't shut up, if they don't, stay silent on this issue, that's going to be a problem for bilateral relations. They said it point blank to them.
So let's rewind the tape on that, right?
Yeah, well, wasn't Donald Trump impeached for this sort of thing?
Oh, I thought telling Ukraine to shut up and do stuff is what impeached a president of the United States.
Yeah, quid pro Joe. That's what we got now. Quid pro Joe.
Oh, and then old Hunter was sitting on the board of that outfit at the time.
Burisma,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's truly remarkable that they're doing all of this with a straight face, out in the open, to no consequence whatsoever.
Yeah, but so part of that though is that because so many people in Washington still listen to these stories and still like get cowed by them, and whatever you think of Donald Trump, and obviously you at the end of the day, he was willing to blow these people off and ignore the stories or fight them toe to toe, go toe to toe in fighting them, and I wonder if when I look at the lessons to be learned from Trump, I wish Republicans figured out that you can start blowing off these stories.
Yes.
I mean, look at Matt Gaetz. And Matt Gaetz is out. He's out doing a Free Britney stories about Free Britney. I mean, he's gotten like chewed to pieces over the scandal.
I mean, in fairness, it sounds like he slept with 17-year-olds and transported them across state lines.
Allegedly.
But then,
to your point, these stories don't actually resonate with any Americans
completely
at all.
not
At all.
And so,
which is why you've got Jen Psaki sitting there from the podium saying, "Oh, we flagged a bunch of stuff for Facebook to take down." It's because they know their greatest megaphone is the mainstream media that has zero credibility, that no one listens to, No one clicks on their stories on social media. And the only way that they can change that game is to rig the game.
That's right.
To force people to pay attention to what the New York Times says every day, and no one wants to.
Their greatest gift is shamelessness.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Republicans don't have enough of it.
Agreed.
And same with like Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton was so brilliant because he was so shameless. There was like nothing he wouldn't say or do. He could care less, and you had to kind of respect it.
Well, I mean, look, we have a saying on this program. It's "Don't take the bait," right?
Right.
And at the
100%.
core of not taking the bait is not engaging in the argument that the media wants you to engage in, right? Because it turns out, like as of right now, as of today, Democrats in 2022 are running on two things, right? They're running on January 6th, and they're running on a horseshit economy. That's it, right? They're not going to be able to sell the horseshit economy because it turns out, like, hey, listen, when you can't afford a loaf of bread, who cares if it's a temperature of 1.5 degrees less in 56 years, which is basically what their agenda is. But the former is all they can talk. If you turn on CNN right now, it is about January 6th.
Yeah, but also, why is that? There's a reason for it.
Yeah, it's because the only thing they can talk. I mean,
yeah, but specifically, it's also because they don't want to talk about what actually matters to people.
Exactly.
Which is the freaking crime in their own neighborhood.
Exactly.
And their own places being burned to the ground, and the fact that we're not allowed to build a wall. Whatever you think about the wall in Mexico, which I think is a fantastic idea. The idea, Nancy Pelosi acknowledges that she knows that walls work, and she builds one around the Capitol because that's what matters to her. What doesn't matter to her are these cities that are burning to the ground.
Exactly. I have had 7 requests for an interview from people writing books about January 6th in the last 2 weeks. It's July 2021.
This is going to sell like hotcakes.
I mean, it is
Who buys these things?
Who buys these things? Well, it's the same wine moms, frankly, that have been just inundating the CNN airwaves and MSNBC since, Trump got in office.
It's going to be huge on NPR.
Yeah. But these people actually believe that this somehow counteracts higher prices at everything that you pay for, crime rampant throughout your streets, open borders that is shifting fentanyl and opioids into your communities all across this country. Like, none of this stuff they care about.
And your schools have been shut down for a year because they got to rename them. And then when your kids get back into the classroom, they're going to tell them that they're racist.
Yeah, the critical race theory, which makes you wonder whether they should open them at all.
Right. Right.
So I think that nails it. It is the Dem messaging is incredibly weak right now. Because they can't talk about gas prices are up, prices of groceries are up,
right.
Crime is rampant. Like, it's up by double digits in major cities, like shootings, all violent crimes. But the result of this is Morning Consult dropped this poll showing that the Democratic advantage for 2020 elections or 2022 elections has narrowed since April.
Yeah, there's a third of Republican voters are extremely enthusiastic this early about the midterms, and that's compared to like 10% less for Democrats.
Well, but I also think that I think Biden and them, I think they realize it, and that's why like around the 4th of July they had that thing about how isn't it great, hot dogs cost 13 cents or whatever it was that they said.
Yeah, they save 16 cents overall.
Yeah. Which of course, compared to the height of the pandemic when like nobody was going anywhere. And by the way, that like half of the grocery store shelves were empty.
Yeah,
you couldn't buy anything anyway. And then you also get this where this whole thing about how. Oh, no, we're not for defunding the police.
Yeah, Republicans did it.
Republicans are defunding police.
Right.
And they're like, do you actually, who's going to believe this? It's absurd.
They do know that they're going to lose the House at the least.
No, this
hopefully
is
the Senate.
What we've said it before. I'm going on a limb. I'm going to say it again. This is going to be historic in terms of a Republican win.
What about the Senate?
I think it's I think it's good. I think the biggest challenge that Republicans have is recruiting, and making sure that they get candidates who are reflective of their state. which is always a challenge amongst Republicans. We've nominated some real pieces of shit throughout the year.
But it's not just that. It's also the fact that in this new environment and where so many of these campaigns are really driven by small dollar grassroots donations. You look at somebody like Mark Kelly or Raphael Warnock, who've got a list that they've built up over, 2 years or 3 years, 4 years, whatever it is. That pays dividends.
Yeah.
And so you look at a state like Arizona that's got a late primary. I think primary is August, right? So you've got a bunch of candidates who are vying for the Republican nomination. Then they got to turn around and they got to compete with the guy who's going to raise $100 million.
Yeah, and they're starting to spend that $100 million the moment they have zero.
The moment.
Yeah.
Right.
So obviously the map is unfavorable to Republicans next year in the Senate. So what's your range of just ballpark?
Well, so here let me just what I mean by recruiting. If Chris Sununu gets in New Hampshire, that's basically like a Hickenlooper analog in Colorado last cycle. It's over. It's over.
Right.
He's going to win. He's going to win with a margin. He's beloved in New Hampshire. If he gets in, that changes the entire map, right? Because without him, I'm not sure Republicans even compete in New Hampshire. Georgia, it's going to be tight no matter who it is, right? But if we get a candidate, I say generic, anybody sitting at this table with the exception maybe of Charlie, who has got a lot of oppo on him.
I've lived my entire life to ensure that I could never run for public office.
Well, you've succeeded, sir.
Thank you.
Honestly, good call.
Yeah, but I even think we could get Smug through and beat Raphael Warren. I really do. But Smug's not running.
It could get worse fast.
So we have to figure out a candidate there. Arizona, there's a lot of different candidates that have interesting things. Nobody's been tested at this level, right? So I think that's the rare occasion where a primary actually works into our advantage. We can see somebody win that could be competitive.
All right, so you raised two interesting races that I think are kind of huge disappointments in Arizona and in Georgia. But you had two candidates, one in each of those states, who ran and lost. On paper, they probably seem like really good candidates, but both of them were handpicked by sitting governors. And you would think that in the and this is a real problem. And I don't know because my general feeling is that primaries are always infinitely better than the conventions or whatever for picking these candidates because it puts them through something. But when you talk about wouldn't it be great to have a great candidate, have this candidate plop this candidate in? You have two situations where you had governors who could have picked anybody in the whole world. And Martha McSally, who is could not be better on paper, lots about her that's very appealing. Unfortunately, she had just lost a race. And so I'm sorry, she just lost a race. Why did you just drop her into this other seat? I just from a constitutional standpoint, I sort of have a problem. If voters just told you no, but whatever. What do you do when it just goes to show that when you give one person the full authority to make the decision, they make a worse decision than if you give 7 million morons that shop at Walmart.
Well, the good news for you, Charlie, is I don't think Martha's running for a third time.
Well, that's good. That's excellent. But of course, neither of these people has ever won an actual election. Right. They've all lost.
Right.
They've never they have no idea what it means to win an election.
No, I think it's fair.
Dropped in there, and it turned out nobody wanted them.
It's fair. I will also say we lost both states at every level. Right? So there's that.
Shots fired.
But
I have faith in the people of Arizona. I have faith in the people of Georgia.
No, I think
they're gonna wake up. They're gonna pick some strong kids. I think losing has a way of focusing people in a major way, and I think that's what this poll shows. You look at the enthusiasm for Republicans. It just wasn't there before.
I really do feel like we're heading into a situation like after 2008, Republicans got so fired up
territory
that they just went all out.
Wave territory. I think if Adam Laxalt runs in Nevada as a guy who unites Trump base with your establishment Republican, I think that is a race that we win. I really do. In this cycle, I think that we win that. So those are all offensive. Everything I talked about is a Democratic-held seat, right? So that's like a +3 territory if you make those things work. You've got Ohio, where I'm confident that we're going to nominate the right person. There's a ton of candidates. It's going to be ugly as hell. But I think almost all of them can win. You've got Pennsylvania. We've done a couple of interviews. We're going to do more with candidates who are running in Pennsylvania. I've been impressed. I've been impressed with the interviews that we've done. And I'm very convinced that those people, especially because Democrats are just a mess. I mean, you got this guy, this Fetterman cat, who's lieutenant governor. He's like 6'8", just an asshole. I mean, every time the guy opens his mouth, he sounds like a complete idiot. A complete idiot.
I really think the current situation where only Republicans are talking about issues that matter, gas prices are high, grocery prices are high, crime is a problem. And what can the Dems talk about? They, their message to be like, actually Republicans want to defund the police, that lasted like 2 weeks, and they're like, honestly, we were idiots for trying that one, right? So when and Biden came out and gave that speech where he said, in a few years, I think things will be fine with inflation. What?
In a few years.
In a few years?
He said no serious economist is worried about inflation. And Janet Yellen, the
Treasury Secretary is like, it's a problem.
Right.
I mean, truly remarkable disconnect. So anyway, I think we've got a bunch of Midwestern things we got to figure out with Ohio, Pennsylvania. Wisconsin's always challenging. But in the end, if this environment is like we believe it will be, it's all about making sure we have players on the field that can take advantage of it. And I'm convinced we're going to do it.
And we just have to do what the Democrats did really well in 2020, and that is expand the map.
Yeah.
Which is what you're alluding to with New Hampshire and in Nevada. You need multiple paths because you just never know what's going to happen.
That's right. That's right. And we almost pulled an inside straight in the Senate last time around, if it wasn't for that dreadful Georgia situation, which we don't need to belabor. But anyway, I think that's good. You look at the fundraising numbers, the committees are doing okay. Republicans are energized. That's the thing. Everybody's ready to play right now. In 2009, Charlie, you remember this. In 2009, after we got our tails kicked and had unified Democratic government, it took us months and months and months and months and months to try to build back at least enough confidence with the Republican base that we're ready to compete again. When we did, it was great. We are way ahead of schedule on that. Way ahead of schedule.
Also, obviously, like healthcare was something in 2009 that was not a winning issue for Republicans at that point, and it's only sort of mildly been since then, perhaps because of an overreach. But but going back to just what you all said, when you look at the issues right now, all the issues, like if you did like a blind test of Trump, Trumpism, and you took Trump out of it and just did all the issues, holy cow, it would be like an 85.
No, it's true.
15 issue breakdown. It's like astonishing.
It's true. It's the only reason why they keep talking about January 6th. They can't talk about these issues.
Yeah,
they can't talk about it.
But yeah, exactly. But so my question though is that I just know from personal experience from people that I know, talk to, and you see it. The lack of enthusiasm. Like I get it that these polls say that there's a lot of enthusiasm for Republicans right now, and you would think that there would be, but I do think I think Republicans have a challenge if going forward, whatever happens, taking that enthusiasm that Trump had sort of isolated and conferring that onto a different candidate.
You can't be vanilla. It's changed the world forever.
Yeah.
He's changed the world forever.
Orange sherbet.
Our candidates and our politics cannot be a 2012 version of Republican politics.
Saying not Mitt Romney.
That's basically, I didn't want to put.
Who let the dogs out? What?
Yeah, I mean, but you can already see it in the candidates that we've interviewed on the program. Like they're willing to take. They're coming on Ruthless.
Yeah,
right.
People are willing to take.
What kind of moron does that?
That's exactly right. But if you're worried about what people in the mainstream media might say about you or might think about you, you wouldn't come on this show.
Right. Yeah, Ted Cruz came on our show.
Thanks for telling me that now.
After the whole Cancun thing. He comes back from Cancun. What does he do? He comes on Ruthless.
Yeah. And it was a huge success.
for him?
Yes, he loved it. And it was, I mean, look, I think we've changed the game in a lot of ways. The former president has a lot to do with that. No question about it. But, but I think what you've done throughout the course of your career, Charlie, in questioning assumptions that so-called elitists that know more than the rest of us have bestowed these narratives, it is now kind of more commonplace within the conservative community than it ever has been.
Yeah, well, and I think it's kind of interesting talking about Ted Cruz coming on here. You know, if you're people who are searching for reliable information, they're not going to the front page of the New York Times anymore. They're not going to Jen Rubin at the whatever it is. They go to this, or they go to the In Pod We Trust thing. You know what? You at least know where they're coming from, and what really matters is the. I mean, I find Rachel Maddow actually kind of interesting to watch. I know where she's coming from, and I really don't believe she makes anything up any more than anybody coming from a different perspective does, and so it is kind of interesting how the media has completely decimated the balanced journalism platform or model, and now it really is. This is where you go. I go to opinion people, to get because I trust them, and I know that they're not going to make something up.
Well, at least some semblance of fact that they work off of, right?
And, obviously, but more to the point is that it's not. They're not. I know that they are skeptical. I just need a little skepticism.
Yeah.
But these people, they will literally say anything. I mean, it's just absurd.
Well, on that score, I feel like we should play a game.
Uh-oh.
Yes, let's do it.
I love games.
This is one of our finest. It's a game we call Dem or Journo. And Charlie, I don't know if you've heard this game before, but what it is basically is we line up statements and writings.
Yeah. I read 4 statements, 3 of which are from members of the media. 1 is from a Democratic operative. You have to pick who the Democratic operative is of the 4 statements.
So I have to remember 4 statements in a row.
Well, I'll read them, and I'll read them again if necessary.
I know, but I'm going to have to remember them. When you finish the 4th one, I'm going to have to remember the first one.
Yeah, I think you'll in real time.
I can do it. All right, I'll try to do it.
And you can talk it out. You can workshop it.
We like to talk it out.
So let's cue up that music.
Dem or Journo, 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 Dem or Journo. Nobody knows.
The original.
Yeah, we went back to the original music just to piss off Smug.
It's way too long. We should cut that in half.
The original.
It has a grit.
Classic.
It has a grit. It has a it's a bootstrapped version. I appreciate it.
Okay. All right. So let's get to business here.
Okay. All right. Statement number 1. These are all basically themed on.
And remember, there are 3 journos.
Yeah, 3 journos, 1 Democratic operative. These are themed on. The voting rights, voting reform laws. So, statement number 1. It seems clear that the anti-democratic drift of the GOP will continue, regardless of Trump's role. That's statement number 1. Statement number 2. The Georgia law effectively granted the Republican-led legislature new power to overrule state and county election officials and sway the outcome of an election.
This is hard.
Yeah,
oh man,
it's really something.
That one is so good.
Statement number 3. They are changing the laws such that not only are they no longer required to be nonpartisan, political appointees could overturn elections without fear of being held accountable by the voters. And statement number 4. Lawmakers must act with more urgency on voting legislation, also in the wake of the U.S. Supreme Court deciding last month to uphold voting restrictions in Arizona that Democrats and voting advocates have called discriminatory on the basis of race.
These are so good.
This is nasty.
Yeah, this is a really tough.
It's a sick game.
Oh my
It really
gosh. All right, let's just workshop it a little bit, and then we can.
Can I hear number 2 again?
I'm going to hear it too. The Georgia law effectively granted the Republican-led legislature new power to overturn state and county election officials and sway the outcome of an election.
See. All right, so you can't tell the difference. First of all, second of all, the best you could do is like pick out one word.
That's you're on it now.
And the word effectively.
There you go.
Is one of those words that it's like, okay, this
It's a
sounds
weasel
like,
word.
It's a total weasel word.
Yeah.
It's a fig leaf.
Yeah.
It's like it's like
They want to just say it. They want to be an advocate and they want to just say it, but they can't. They have to qualify it.
But then you have the flip problem, which is that Democrats have learned, politicians have learned that you can use these weasel.
You can kind of ape what the media
right.
says,
and then you can start.
Well,
then
I can't give it away,
and they may just print it.
But the fact that you were so eager to glom on to,
ooh, he's reading it. It's a poker deal.
Uh-oh.
The effectively makes me think that it's number 4.
Oh, wow. Okay, wait, hold on. This is
because I know you want me to fail.
This is
This is some incredible game theory.
You know, I had number 4 as my dem too.
You had 4?
Yeah.
Plus
should I just read 4 again?
Let's read 4 again.
Lawmakers must act with more urgency on voting legislation, also in the wake of the U.S. Supreme Court deciding last month to uphold voting restrictions in Arizona that Democrats and voting advocates have called discriminatory on the basis of race.
I love how you clear your. This is like you want these readings. To
This is my favorite part of the variety program.
It's so good, and he does a very nice job. So my only hesitation on 4 is that if you're a Democratic operative, you wouldn't say that Democrats have called. You would just say that voting rights advocates have called it.
Well, what if you're never Trump?
Wow.
Well, wait, but they're not a Democratic operative.
I mean, really? I mean, who knows at that point?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, by definition, listen, if you guys are pulling one over on me.
No, I'm just throwing. Look,
no.
Disregard what I'm saying because I'm trying to lead you all astray.
Mm-hmm.
What did I say? I said he wanted us to fail. So I think that but the only thing that catches me about number 4 is that like who actually cites anything?
Well,
nobody.
No. Press secretaries, when they're reading that bullshit at the top of every briefing, they're like, the Democrats or that voting rights advocates have said is terrible. So therefore, it's terrible.
Oh, so we're including canned.
Oh yeah, Democratic operative.
No, I got you.
You know.
Yeah.
So, look, number 1.
But you're also looking at the quotes.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I jotted some notes. I like to jot notes.
Oh no, we're very serious about this on the variety program.
No. I'm not challenging that, but I'm just saying that actually seeing it on paper would actually allow me to like ruminate.
Okay, well let me read number 1 again. I'll read number 1.
But you lull me when you do
He's a
this.
visual guy.
It seems clear that the anti-democratic drift of the GOP will continue, regardless of Trump's role.
So here's the thing. You want me to go first?
Go first. Nobody look. Okay. Holmes has submitted his answer. Okay. Smug has submitted his answer. Charlie?
Can I just say it or?
Yeah. Oh no. Now you can totally workshop it. They've committed.
I think I have to go with 1.
Okay. So Charlie and Holmes are on number 1, and Smug said number 4. The answer was number 3.
Oh!
Reread.
Number 3. Lawmakers must act with more urgency. I'm sorry. That's not right. It was no, it was number 3. I'm sorry. I read the wrong one. They are changing the laws such that not only are they no longer required to be nonpartisan, political appointees could overturn elections without fear of being held accountable by the voters. That was Georgia Dem Rep. Billy Mitchell. Number one was from the LA Times. Number two was from the New York Times. And number four was from ABC News.
Wait, what was? Can you read number 4 again?
Lawmakers must act with more urgency on voting legislation, also in the wake of the U.S. Supreme Court deciding.
It's a pure advocacy.
This is nuts.
Pure advocacy.
That's from ABC News.
I mean, there's nothing. That's not reporting at all.
So I'm still confused. So it's one reporter and
Yeah.
3 opposites, or
Yes.
3 reporters and one.
Now you're getting it. Now you're getting it. Yeah. No, it's 3 reporters.
This has been Smug's hang up for now 6 months.
So I'm looking for the one operative.
Yes.
Yeah, which you didn't get.
You ain't get.
No, which I got wrong.
You
Yeah,
couldn't
it's the same
get.
thing as-
But we
Yeah.
both. Let me just explain my decision making here. Is that it's, for one, if you're a Democratic operative, if you say a sentence that doesn't include Trump, you're not doing your job.
Yeah,
right?
fair.
You're not doing your job. Like, that's what they do.
But if you're a reporter, you're also not doing your job at this point.
Well,
because
but that's why the beauty of this game is it's one and the same.
right.
It's one and the same.
If you don't
And it's
if you don't mention Trump, you can't get traffic.
Oh, man. I just thought, so 2 was easy for me. Effectively Granted is a perfect New York Times weasel way of doing it. 3 was difficult for me. I struggled a little bit with it because the political appointees could overturn without fear. Like, I mean, that's not at all accurate, right? At all. But then you're like, to your point that you were making earlier in the program, you can just invent shit
Right.
if you're a journalist.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, maybe that's what's happening here,
Right.
right? Because I don't even understand how you could come to that sort of conclusion. Is you usually have to have a little bit of meat.
Right.
If
Some
you're-
evidence.
Yeah, if you're an
Right.
operative, but not in this case. Not in this case. What a get! I think that might be the first time we've ever missed entirely.
Yeah, no, let's hear it for the research team.
Yeah, good work. Good work, research team. I love it. All right, can we play us out with the tune?
It's way too long.
Dem or Journo, 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 Dem or Journo. Nobody knows.
It's just so hilariously long.
The long, but here's the problem. You know, Smug. It's like you listen to like house music or EDM, or are you just shouting at the DJ to drop the beat?
I never listen
Like
to
it's
that music.
the advantage of
I
the
listen to
long
Fleetwood
version
Mac and jazz.
is it
They
builds.
know when
No,
how long it should
it
be.
builds. This old version of Dem or Journo, it builds. We add pieces of the harmony, and it crescendos.
Crescendo's all right.
That's the quality.
Crescendos. All right, let's get to our interview. She is an incredibly impressive individual. She's actually very, very funny and very personable, which is not something you could say about every United States senator, to say the least. Senator Shelley Moore Capito, the dean of the West Virginia delegation. Here she is.
I want to welcome to the program an incredible senator, someone I'm a huge fan of, Senator Shelley Moore Capito of West Virginia. Welcome to the program.
Thanks, Josh. Great to be on.
It is great to have you. You know, you are one of those rare senators who does the work, rolls up the sleeves, and gets at it. And one of the things that we have come to appreciate is that you understand when there's a good deal on the table and when there's not. You were sort of in charge of the first round of negotiations on infrastructure with this White House, and quickly came to the conclusion that the goalposts were moving and you had to head out of there. We've got whole new iterations of all of this now. What's your take on where we're at?
Well, I think obviously, as we speak today on Wednesday, we got a big vote. Apparently, Senator Schumer is going to push the vote on whether we proceed to the non-existent legislation. So right now, I think we are in a stall mode until the bipartisan group comes out with actual text and how much it's going to cost and what it encompasses and what did they give up and what did they get. And I think that the framework of it is basically the framework that I set out when I first started with the president, which is physical infrastructure. It does go into a few different areas that I wasn't in, but it's the same framework, and it's just a lot more money. And the big question is, how does it get paid for? And that's, I think, what a lot of our Republican caucus is looking at. The pay-fors, are they real? Do they really amount to anything? And I think that's where you see the committee really struggling.
Yeah, no question. Well, and you see in the Democratic side, there is just huge divisions between the progressive side and I guess the more moderate side, although we're talking about trillions no matter what, right? So it's hard to tell where moderation is at this point. But is it your sense that some kind of an accord is possible here on the pay-fors and that could actually get something done?
I think it's very much alive. I think it's not a 80-20 proposition here. I think it's probably still 51-49. I think that and I don't really have good information to base this on. I think that Schumer wants to nail down his next step, which is his $3.5 trillion plan, before he'll move forward on this. And I think that may be where the pressure is being applied most heavily to those several Democrats that are not really sure. I don't think publicly they'll say they're nailed down, but I think that will be the ultimate deal that will be made before Schumer lets the thing actually have the hope of passing that I think it probably will in the end. I think there will be at least 10 Republicans that vote for it, because there's a lot of Republicans that really want to have this. I'm one who want a bipartisan bill, who want to have it paid for and without touching the taxes. And if they can get those parameters going, this will be good for the country.
Yeah, the cynics amongst us, of which I have subscribed on occasion, have thought that sort of Schumer is handling all of this in a way to persuade your colleague, Senator Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema primarily, but maybe a few other Democrats, that they've gone through the sort of bipartisanship that's necessary, the veneer of working together. And so now it's time to get on board for the big win, right? And what made us nervous about that is you had President Biden basically say the quiet part out loud after he was announcing this bipartisan accord and said, yeah, it's all linked. And then, of course, they walked it back. But does that make you nervous at all?
Well, I think call me cynical. I think that the scenario that you laid out is very much what's happened here. And I think that it needed to be proved that the veneer of bipartisanship and a lot of good hard work that's gone into it too is going to exist, and we're going to give it the old college try. I do think the president needs a bipartisan win, and I think this is probably the one that he could gather. I've always said that the Democrats could always come in and do reconciliation. They've had that ability from the day I walked into the Oval Office the first time as the Republican presenter of a plan. And so I don't really fear that, because I don't think we impact that. That's really between 50 people. And none of that 50 is any Republican or me. And so I think the best thing then is to look at, can we narrow the focus of infrastructure to something that makes sense? Can we pay for this? Can we not touch the tax? And anything we do on that is going to impact what they can do on their larger one, I think.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any guarantees there that they get that bigger one. I think they're going to run into some difficulties with that.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you laid it out that way, because there's sort of two schools of thought, right? And we had Senator Toomey on the other day, who I think subscribes to your school of thought, that if you do something that is surface-based infrastructure, that's good policy, that it may make it much more difficult to pass this larger package that House Democrats and Bernie Sanders and everybody are in love with.
Right. And, we don't know what's in this package. That's what gets me about the whole thing. They just fly out numbers. Even in my negotiations with the president, it was never about what are we going to do. It's that we have to get to $1 trillion. And I'm like, what if our bucket of need only fills up to 500 or 600, which is where they are?
Right.
Why wouldn't we just do that? And at the point at which I was in the negotiation was always about how do you message $1 trillion? This is what it has to be. And that's what they're doing with this 3.5 trillion. Well, people in America don't do their budgeting at home like that. They find their need and then they figure out how much they have to spend.
It's nice to know that there's the substance and policy depth there that we're working with.
Yeah.
Hey, it's going to be $1 trillion. I don't know what we're going to spend it on.
Yeah.
It's got to be $1 trillion.
There's stuff we can put in here, I'm sure.
Oh, God, that's nerve-wracking. But it does get into the larger discussion about the economy writ large and some of the concerns I know you share about, potential overspending, where we're at with inflation. I got to imagine you're hearing from your constituents. We're hearing from everybody who listens to this program that prices for everyday items have just absolutely popped everybody's eyeballs out of their heads.
Yeah, the inflation issue is real. Gasoline is a basic. I know that's not part of the calculations that they use, but it's something that gets into the psyche of every traveling American when they, are used to filling up their car for 25 and now it's 35 or something like that. So, and the other thing is the flood of money going in, but then the lack of job takers. I mean, I hear from so many businesses that they can't open their business up fully because they can't get enough people. So then you have that disconnect. And then I can't build a house because I can't get the supplies. And you've got that dynamic going at the same time. So, I mean, retrospectively, I was in my early 30s, the last time we had huge inflation. And literally, Charlie and I, my husband and I, had a mortgage rate of about 18%.
That's insane.
Which was all you could do was pay the interest.
Oh,
you couldn't even touch the principal, and that combined with everything else, and it slipped up on us quickly, and as a country, and it was terribly hard to repair. And that I'm worried that's the direction we're headed.
Yeah, I'm worried about it too. I mean, especially when we're talking about 3.5 trillion. I mean,
right.
And the target on a lot of that, it seems to me, is your in-state colleague Joe Manchin, which I think is so hilarious. The contrast between the two of you is amazing. You just like work your tail off and get all these things done. He's like a drama machine. You're saying it, I'm saying it, not you, but he's like a drama machine. You have to deal with all of this. Do you think at some level the people of West Virginia are going to understand somebody's support for something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think really if you look at our state, and you know this well because of your experience in Kentucky, our state is totally transitioned. When I started running in 2000,
right,
I was the first Republican in 20 years that had been elected, and the first Republican reelected since the 50s. And then we progressed, and Al Gore and then President Obama just took the Democrat Party so left that our West Virginia Democrats were union, hardworking,
right,
old style Democrats. And I think they started looking at their paychecks, they started looking at their neighborhoods, and they thought, or listening to the rhetoric and just like, that's not me anymore. Right. And, grandpa's not here anymore, so I can vote Republican. and that's what's happened. And so then we got David McKinley in 2010 as another representative. Then now it's just Manchin's the last man standing. And he won his last race, but by the margins that he'd been winning by, a 3-point margin is not very much. So our House, our Senate, our governor, it's all Republican, super majorities in both. And I never thought I'd see that. Ever.
It's really incredible. And you hear McConnell talk about the same thing in Kentucky when he was the only Republican there. But the transition between the two states is very similar. West Virginia a little bit later, but you've helped lead that charge, Senator.
Well, thanks.
And you're right. It's a very wonderful red state at this point.
It is. And, but you still have to work the issues. And if you listen to what our state wants and believes in, it's definitely much more in line with what Republicans believe, and especially contrasting with the Democrats here in DC.
No kidding. One issue I want to hit on, because I know you've put a lot of thought into this, it's the border crisis. And you have some responsibilities as ranking member on that Homeland approach subcommittee. What is your sense of what's going on in the border? What do we need to do?
Well, my sense is that the signals are loud and clear throughout South America and the Northern Triangle countries, but also the world, that our southern border is open. We have the amount of people that are apprehended is 188,000 last month, most ever in the last 21 years. Also, young children, we know that's way up, under 18. And then families, but also people from all like 40 different countries. But the number of people, here's a statistic that, and I can't give you the exact statistic, but I can tell you the trend. The trend of people that are apprehended, that claim asylum, that are then told at the border, look, we're not even going to process your claim at all. You just go ahead. We'll give you a ticket into the United States. And if you could check in with your ICE office when you get there, that would be great. And it's called prosecutorial absence or something. So they're not even going through the whole process.
It sounds just like an honor system.
Exactly. An honor. No. Yeah. And these folks aren't showing up. Well, no wonder. No wonder they're not showing up. And anyway, I don't even know how I could find my ICE office, and I wouldn't even know where it is. But so I think that's an indication that they've just thrown up their hands and going, I can't find a solution. I know the solution is not to detain them all here in close quarters. We're going to have to spread them out in the country. And that to me is a abdication of the rule of law at the southern border.
No question about it. And the ramifications for what you just talked about are many. One of which is contributing to a continued opioid crisis, which you've spent a lot of time on. I mean, those are inextricably linked at this point.
Well, they are, because, we know that the fentanyl that's coming in is now coming in through the southern border. It was previously coming in through China in our mail system, but we actually passed a bill that enabled our post office to really become effective at stopping that. It's called the STOP Act. So it's coming in through Mexico: heroin, methamphetamine, cocaine, and other drugs. The apprehensions are way up of drugs, but you don't know how. They think the amount that's going through is much more than what it's ever been. But if you look at what the Border Patrol is having to deal with in terms of taking care of these folks that are in detention, they have to divert man and woman power into those areas where those could be people on the front line that would be in the drug diversion or drug disruption area. So it's, humans are always going to trump, taking care of humans and disrupting humans coming across the border is always going to take precedent over, trying to find the drugs. So more drugs are in, more drugs are apprehended, but that means there's more in this country, and they're killing people. 90,000 people last year. The statistics in my state went up 49%. We lead the country per capita. It's really sad. My daughter's very close friend OD'd in December and died. So, I mean, there isn't a family in our state that doesn't know somebody who's been impacted deeply by this.
No, man,
it's really bad.
Yet another reason why we all need to be engaged in this debate. It's not just about border towns. It's about everything across the country. Outlaid. Yeah. All right. Well, let's lift the mood a little bit.
Okay.
I got 3 big questions for you.
Okay.
We ask everybody, and it's a little get to know you. The first one is, if you can plan out your last meal on Earth, what would it be?
Well, I would like to have my whole family and my 7 grandchildren and everybody at the table with me.
Okay. All right.
And I've never been known as a very great chef, but my older son told me the other day that he really wants me to make my meatloaf for the kids. So I'd have meatloaf.
Okay.
Because you got to put bacon on the top, have it go down into the meatloaf. I'd have fresh corn, because that's what my mom loved. My grandparents loved the fresh corn. And I would probably have something chocolate for dessert, maybe a little wine on the side.
It's your last meal. You might as well.
Right. Maybe a lot of wine on the side since it's my last meal. And then some kind of potato, probably French fries.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that's a full meal. Yeah, I
got
like
everything.
And it's a
Dark.
family affair.
Right.
Good. All right. Well, that works for me. Second question. I think I know the answer to this, but our listeners may not. If you never got into politics at all, what would you be doing with your life?
Right today?
It can be literally anything.
Okay. I would have loved, I don't think I could have ever really been this, but I'd love to have been a woman tennis pro.
Yes.
And yes. But if today I wasn't in politics, I would be working on my golf game.
Yeah. Well, so you and Larry Kudlow have the same answer. He said he wanted to win Wimbledon, which is
I would. Maybe we could do mixed. I don't know. We could win it together.
That's great. All right. Well, I can take both of those. That's great. And you were a teacher at one point in your career, isn't that right?
Right. Yeah. And I worked in higher ed.
Yeah.
But if I could be a woman tennis pro, that would be the best.
Oh, that's clearly the best. All right. Final question.
Yeah.
What motivates Shelley Moore Capito more, the thrill of victory or the agony of defeat?
I think it's more the agony of defeat, because especially after achieving a victory, after having one victory, the motivation is what does losing look like? And that's got to be the most miserable thing ever. So I want to keep winning.
That's perfect and absolutely on brand. I absolutely knew that was going to be what your answer was. That's
really?
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Because it's different people structure it in different ways, right? And the agony of defeat one, the poster child's always the Michael Jordan character that's like, wins are great, but I just am motivated by not losing, right?
I don't want to lose. Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, I find that even when I'm playing like backgammon or Candyland, I don't want to lose.
I love that. Well, listen, Senator, thank you so much for joining us. I hope we can stay in touch and keep us updated on all these important issues.
All right, Josh, thanks for what you're doing. I appreciate it and love your podcast.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Bye-bye.
So, look, she's got first of all, she's an eminently reasonable human being who has been in the room during infrastructure talks and I think provided us a pretty valuable insight about what the likelihood of all of that coming together is. Very topical. She's also just so serious. And I tried to lead her into a little bit of discussion about Joe Manchin. She was very disciplined, but she did note that her state very red and that they were very interested in anyone who would consider voting for a $3.5 trillion boondoggle, the likes of which would probably bankrupt every business in her entire state.
You hear that, Joe? In case you're listening?
Yeah.
I hope he was paying attention to that because there was a not so subtle message that was delivered.
Good.
So what's the Dem leadership play on this? How do they get what's assuming that they're not going to get anything like what they're hoping to get now. So how do they manage this?
Well, I have a very cynical take. You might not be surprised.
Shocking.
I think the entire bipartisan discussion has been a enabler of Schumer to basically come back to the table to Manchin and Sinema and a handful of others and say, look, we tried. Right? But if you're going to do anything in the Biden administration, we got one shot and it's $3.5 trillion and we can get everybody on board. I think the analog to that, honestly, is a lot like after Republicans failed to repeal Obamacare in 2017, and all of a sudden it was tax reform or bust, and you had a whole bunch of people who were in different places on tax reform, but they just dropped their objections essentially and went forward and passed that bill because they needed an accomplishment in that first year. It ultimately ended up to be a big deal and propelled the economy to higher places than it's been in a century. But I think Democrats now find themselves in a place where they're looking around like, hey man, we just spent $2 trillion in the first month on something that used to be super bipartisan and we've done nothing else.
But doesn't that also cuts both ways though? Because every minute you get closer to next year's elections, you get people being more cautious. So
That's
that
right.
people like Sinema being like, "Yeah, I'm done. I'm out of here."
We'll see, man. Democrats have an amazing ability to just throw caution to the wind. You remember they all lost their seats in 2010 with Obamacare.
I think, honestly, the primary concern for Dem leadership right now is not catching the Delta variant from the Texas Dems. That's become their issue.
I can't wait for Kamala Harris to have to come in there to cast a deciding vote and violate every so-called COVID exposure protocol that she pretends to care about.
They all have already. The Texas Dems had lunch with these people.
Yeah.
You know, like we all talked last year, we talked about how every Republican that came within 50 feet of somebody who had been potentially diagnosed had to quarantine for a month and a half. Right. These guys have lunch with the guy with the Delta COVID Comfort Plus.
Yeah, the Comfort Plus. I'm waiting for the first class. I'm waiting for Delta First Class Edition. I really want to catch that one.
Yeah, that's when you're going to get it. Yeah. Anyway, listen, Charlie, we can't thank you enough, pal. This has been a blast.
Well, I feel like a real failure.
Why?
I mean, just completely. I mean, I'm the expert here, and I completely blew it on the Dem or Journo.
Yeah, we were really counting on you to have some inside info there.
Even my cynicism is not deep enough for these waters.
Well, that's what we aim to do on the show, is make everyone more cynical. So that's a mission accomplished.
Smug, let's call it a week.
So that's a banger of an episode, gentlemen. You know, thank you so much, Charlie, for being on. Probably the most fun episode we've ever recorded here.
Loved it.
So until next time, minions, keep the faith, hold the line, and own the libs. We'll see you on Tuesday. Stay ruthless.